Ethan Cole had always believed that the land was more than dirt and fences. It was a legacy, a living thing that carried the sweat of generations. His grandfather had plowed these fields with mules, his father with steel, and now Ethan with machines that roared like thunder across the rolling acres. To him, this farm wasn't just property. It was history stitched into soil. But to Olivia Tyson, the newly crowned president of the Willowbrook Heights Homeowners Association, it was something else entirely, an opportunity. And Ethan would learn quickly that when power parks itself in front of your home with a smile and a clipboard, the war for survival doesn't happen in the shadows of barns. It happens in broad daylight where everyone can see. The first sign of trouble was the SUV. Ethan spotted it one Tuesday morning from the kitchen window, where his wife Jenna was pouring coffee. It was too clean, too shiny, too smug to belong anywhere near his gravel driveway. Jenna's voice was steady, but her eyes told him everything. "Ethan, you need to see this." The SUV sat square across their entrance like a blockade, and tucked beneath the wiper blade was a letter written in neat, expensive ink. "We need to discuss the new community access point. I'll be back at noon. Don't go anywhere. Signed, Olivia Tyson, Willowbrook Heights HOA President." The words burned in his palm as he crumpled the paper. Olivia Tyson, the kind of woman who could gut a man with a smile. Ethan had heard of her from neighbors, whispers of how she could turn bylaws into weapons and fines into shackles. She had been pushing for an easement, a community access point that would slice straight through Ethan's best pasture. It wasn't about convenience. It was about control. Neighbors peeked through curtains as Ethan walked outside, boots crunching on gravel, rag still in hand. "Move your car, Olivia," he called out, voice cutting through the morning. No answer. Curtains twitched, but the SUV stayed. Jenna, calm as ever, asked, "Birdhouse cam working?" Ethan nodded. It was. By noon, Olivia returned. Dressed like she had just stepped out of a catalog, she strolled up the driveway with the grace of someone who thought the world bent to her stride. "Ethan," she said, voice syrupy sweet, "we can do this the easy way or the hard way." He gave her the hard way. Ethan's tractor rumbled to life, its engine growling like a promise. Neighbors gathered, kids whispering as he lined the loader forks under the SUV. Slow, deliberate, almost surgical, he lifted the pristine machine until its nose pointed helplessly toward the sky. Gasps rippled through the lane. Then, with the calm of a man clipping weeds, Ethan drove it toward the ditch and tilted. The SUV slid nose first into the mud, half buried like a trophy of arrogance. Jenna's hidden camera caught everything. By evening, the video hit the internet. Farmer versus HOA president. Within hours, strangers from around the world were cheering Ethan on, calling it calibrated justice. Ethan chuckled, feeling a rare stripe of victory. But deep down, he knew. Bullies don't quit when they're embarrassed. They regroup, and Olivia Tyson was nothing if not a master of regrouping. 2 days later, certified mail arrived smelling faintly of perfume, fines, $500 for unauthorized, agricultural machinery on a residential road, $1,000 for landscape modification, and $2,000 for public nuisance and safety. Hazard! The viral video itself had become ammunition. Olivia had turned bureaucracy into bullets. When she arrived again, she was bold enough to walk right up to the porch. "Sign the survey permission," she cooed, "or the county will sign it for you." She smiled directly at Jenna's camera. This is the day he learned who runs Willowbrook. Ethan's jaw clenched. His cows ran Willowbrook, not Olivia, and the camera caught the thin smile she tried to hide. But her game was deeper than fines. She was building a paper trail, painting Ethan as dangerous, reckless, unfit to hold the land. And then the sabotage began. It started with silence. The low purr of Ethan's diesel pump was dead one night. The lock on the 500-gallon tank was snapped. The hose lay like a snake across the ground, and nearly all the fuel was gone. A boot print stamped the mud clear and deliberate. Ethan felt his stomach twist. Hours later, the cattle gate had been slashed open. Panic thundered through his chest as he and neighbors scoured the night, flashlights and trucks sweeping across fields. They found the herd scattered, some grazing in neighbors' fields, others wandering dangerously close to the highway. Gathering them back was grueling, and every second screamed one truth. This wasn't mischief. This was war. Jenna became their archivist of battle. Every fine, every letter, every blurry photograph of their barn with subject lines like, "Shame if it failed inspection." She logged it all in a file labeled Tyson. Ethan stopped reacting and started planning. He had learned long ago that you don't chase every fox. You close the pen and set the trap. They studied the patterns. The attacks always came near the tanks, the back gate, the barn. Repetition, the Achilles heel of arrogance. So Ethan prepared. High-definition game cameras hidden in birdhouses, GPS trackers tucked into fuel caps, and UV dye, an invisible brand that would glow like fire under the right light. For nights, nothing. Then, at 12:03 a.m. on the 4th, the trap caught its prey. A figure crept through the drizzle, bolt cutters gleaming. He moved with the sloppy confidence of someone convinced of his own invisibility. Padlock snapped. Hose dipped. Diesel gurgled. Ethan stepped out, maglite cutting through the dark. "Drop it." The thief froze, stammering excuses. Ethan's voice stayed calm as he switched flashlights. The UV beam ignited the truth. The man's hands glowed electric blue, branded by invisible ink. On his jacket, Jerry. Jerry cracked fast. Under pressure, he spilled. Olivia had promised him favors, reduced HOA fees, even a slice of power, if he taught the farmer a lesson. She had weaponized neighbors as pawns in her game. The war changed that night. No longer was Ethan just defending land. He was unraveling a conspiracy. With proof in hand, Jenna grew ruthless. She compiled emails, videos, Jerry's confession, and even recordings from HOA meetings where Olivia bragged about her county connections. Their evidence folder grew into a weapon sharp enough to cut through bureaucracy. When the county finally stepped in, Ethan and Jenna weren't scrambling. They were ready. The sheriff walked the fields, surveying broken gates, photographing cut locks. The surveyor confirmed what everyone knew. Ethan's land predated Willowbrook Heights by generations. And when Olivia tried to charm her way out, her mask cracked under the weight of evidence. Neighbors testified, their silence finally broken. Sam brought dashcam footage. Nora admitted Olivia had tried to bribe her into filing noise complaints. Piece by piece, the puzzle revealed Olivia for what she was. Not a leader, but a manipulator willing to burn down a community to expand her empire. The county rejected her easement petition. Investigations into property tampering and theft opened. Olivia's power began to fracture. She had thought fines and threats would crush Ethan, but she had underestimated the resilience of a farmer who had weathered droughts, storms, and markets far crueler than an HOA president with a clipboard. The aftermath wasn't clean. Fines lingered. Angry letters still arrived. But something more important had shifted. The community remembered. They remembered who fixed fences at midnight, who pulled neighbors' trucks out of mud, who shared hay when winters ran long. They remembered Ethan, and they saw Olivia for what she was. Ethan often thought back to that first note on the windshield, the arrogance of a woman who thought she owned what she didn't. If you ever find someone trying to park their power on your land, he realized you can fight two ways, loud and quick, or quiet and patient. He chose both. He fought with tractors and cameras, with neighbors and receipts, and in the end, truth outlasted arrogance. He stood one evening at the edge of his field, Jenna at his side, the cattle grazing under a sunset that painted everything gold. The battle hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. He tightened his arm around her and whispered, "They thought they could take it." She smiled softly. But they didn't, because land isn't just dirt. It's history. It's family. And sometimes, when you're pushed to defend it, you discover that your roots are deeper, stronger, and far more enduring than anyone's arrogance. And if all else fails, well, there's always a tractor to put where arrogance once stood.